Brought to you by Ralph Cramden's Raccoon Lodge, it's the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. A genetically superior Medicare podcast. Sometimes he wishes he was a sky marshal, Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting, impactful episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. You may have heard my Canadian nephew, Drew McMillan, tell you who I am, and that would be Doug Jones, your Medicare expert for today. And I am very happy to be here because I do what I enjoy most by way of this podcast, and that is give people confidence about Medicare. I'd let them know that there's an expert out here who can help them out, and there is a way to deliver that message to the people that I have always promoted, and that is to encourage them to purchase my book on Amazon.com. The book is Medicare for the Lazy Man 2024, and it is available to you in 4 different editions. When you purchase either or any of those editions, and those would be the paperback, the Kindle, the Audible book, which is the recording of the book, and the hardcover, the magnificent $24 hardcover edition, you're going to find all the Medicare knowledge that anybody would ever want to have stored up within those books. The information is the same in each one, but the method of delivering it to your is a little bit different. I would suggest that if you buy Medicare for the Lazy Man 2024 and read it for a good hour and a half, you will have more knowledge than 98% of all Americans in the whole world about Medicare. And that is quite an accomplishment. Most Americans don't care enough about Medicare until they approach Medicare age to really have the kind of knowledge that I impart in my book. So that's what I suggest. Buy the book. And when you finish it and your Medicare time is approaching, say 2 or 3 months away from either your 65th birthday or your contemplated retirement date from your large employer plan, then contact me and I will help you acquire all of these supplemental coverages that will fill in the gaps of Medicare and give you excellent protection for the rest of your life. So that's what I suggest. And also I have suggestions for Randy Carson, the producer of this magnificent podcast. And the suggestion is that he wake up and get with it today. Wake up, Wendy.
Oh, man, you took me right out of a good nap there, Doug.
Yeah, it looks like you're out in the sunlight, the Arizona sunlight, just enjoying making vitamin D.
I am. That's the south end of my yard there.
Mm-hmm.
And someday, very soon, as I mentioned to you, excuse my French, darn near killed myself cutting down some bushes the other day. So I need
to. Is that where the bushes were?
Yeah, well, they are totally gone. You can't see it, but to the left-hand side there, it's totally open now. So I'm going to go out and take some new background pictures, and you will see more of the country on the south side of my yard.
Well, it is nice desert country. You've got a big gap between you and the next neighborhood over.
Yeah, we were really fortunate when we bought this house. I don't know just exactly how fortunate we would have gotten this, but this is the only house in the neighborhood that only has for some reason, it's the only one that has only one house next to it. Other than that, I'm offset from everything.
That's a very, very nice situation to be in. I've always enjoyed your backyard. It seems very spacious to me. Mine, on the other hand, my property is pretty much 90% covered by the house with just a fairly small backyard and a patio and so forth. Yours is much more spacious. Very cool. Of course, in Illinois, I've got 4 acres. So it's like overkill. Everybody's got 4.
My God, you could hold a lot of Guinness back there. You could have a party that would never stop.
Uh, that's I would have to get the Guinness here, and then I'd have to have somebody qualified to pour it. Apparently, not just any slob can pour Guinness. You got
If I
to be
was,
trained.
if you were going to have a 4th of July Guinness party, I would be more than happy to volunteer for that task.
I'll tell you what happened about 6 or 8 years ago. We were driving down the road with another couple in the car, and we passed a farm, a nicely maintained farm with a farmhouse and a lot of lawn, and about 50 cars parked on the lawn. And so my friend in the back seat said, "Stop! We have to turn around and go back and see why all those cars were in that yard, in the barnyard or the farmyard." And we turned around and went back, and we saw what they were up to in the yard. It was incredible. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. We couldn't believe so many people would be participating in this. It was called goat yoga. And
what? Okay. Now you've really thrown me for a loop. You're going to give me some detail around goat yoga.
I've always thought yoga was kind of silly anyway, but I didn't realize it could be taken to another layer, another level.
Another extreme.
A much weirder extreme. And what these people were doing were laying on the ground in various yogi positions, and the goats were just climbing all over them and making themselves at home on top of these people. Some were on all fours, and some were on their backs, holding their legs in the air. I don't know what the heck yogi is all about, but the goats were using them like a gymnasium.
I don't know anything about yoga either. But do you have any notion at all, Doug, as to what value add the goat had?
I have none whatsoever, and especially when you consider that goats are probably not housebroken, it seems even weirder that somebody would want to participate in that sort of activity. But I will tell you that when we're in Arizona, we religiously record Arizona Highways Television.
Yeah.
And there's a very comely woman who owns the show and produces it, and she's the hostess. And she goes various places in Arizona and discusses things with people and goes to a lot of restaurants and things like that, museums. And she actually interviewed the two ladies in, I don't know, Queen Creek or Gilbert or someplace that invented goat yoga.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
So I'm sure there's a YouTube out there of the goat yoga inventors, but it was pretty weird. And frankly, I don't think I thought those women had their heads screwed on straight either. They yelled a lot of the same things at the same time, and I don't know. They might have escaped from some sort of an institution.
Well, this is probably way too much information, but I'm going to share just a little bit with you as to why goat yoga. Not that I would participate. But even though the goats aren't housebroken,
yep,
it's not that big a problem. I grew up on a ranch, so let me tell you a little bit about goat droppings.
Tell me tell me everything you know about goat droppings, would you please?
Okay. A goat's system is so efficient on making use of their food that by the time it comes out the other end, it's literally just dust. Okay, there's nothing to it.
That takes care of part of the problem that concerned me.
Well, yeah, there's another end of the goat.
Yes,
too.
Yeah. I'd like to hear about everything that comes out because I don't want to get anywhere near goat yoga.
I didn't think about that end of it. Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So I'd only have a 50% solution for you.
Well, that's better than where my mind was a few minutes ago. So I appreciate that. I thank you for that. And I forgot to start my timer, so I don't know how far we are into this amazing conglomeration of goat yoga.
I can tell you exactly. We have, now that we're running 30 minutes, we have 21 minutes and 5 seconds.
Oh, you're counting backwards then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Let me tear into our Medicare content for today, shall we? And I'm so proud of myself because the content curator has an eye doctor's appointment, and they're going to dilate her pupils. And she was busy preparing for that. I am the nominal content curator for today. So if it seems a little disjointed, you'll know exactly why. And I wanted to tear into our first item, which took me a while. I read this a day or two ago because it's a pretty new item that's happening, and I was breathing heavily. There was steam coming out of my nostrils, and I was very, very unhappy about this. I've had a chance to take a couple of deep breaths, and I am now able to approach this in a constructive manner because I'm keeping good thoughts about the results of our election coming up this fall, about 5 months from now, I'm guessing. The headline on this article here is Medigap, or Medicare supplement policies, face new federal non-discrimination rules. And the whole thrust of this federal proposal is an additional increment of federal control over health insurance. They have stated their goal that the government should be in charge of all health insurance. I think that's a disastrous proposition. Historically, the courts have made the states, generally speaking, the people who administer and who control the Medicare supplements and most other insurance plans. It's a little complicated to do business as an insurance company because you have 51 legislations and 51 jurisdictions to do business in. But the federal government, starting not too long ago, has pretty much announced that they are going to incrementally try to take over the administration of health insurance in America. And of course, then they apply federal rules. They apply the same rules everywhere, and they are not well thought out. And at the end of this article, I was just shaking my head saying, boy, elections matter, and the people we vote for do matter. So I'm hoping that this never comes to pass. This is just another incremental step in the government taking over private enterprise. But the article says the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is changing its strategy for regulating Medicare supplement insurance policies, saying that the products are going to be subject to this new federal health non-discrimination rule. This final rule implements Section 1557 of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and the Republicans had an opportunity to rescind the Affordable Care Act on a couple of occasions, and people like John McCain caused them to fail to do that. And I'm hoping that they're going to be able to do it after the next election. This section of the law prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability at health programs that receive federal funding. That's a weirdly worded sentence. All those things are not allowed to be discriminated against at health programs that receive federal funding. But the whole thing is nobody discriminates on the basis of any of those categories anyway. This is a smokescreen. This is a bogus excuse because none of that discrimination exists, but they want to use it as an excuse to go farther, and they'll wind up reaching into your pockets. What it means, agents and brokers who help clients with their Medicare supplement coverage could end up running into federal officials more often. That sounds like a great use of our tax money and our federal officials. In a preview version of the final health non-discrimination rule, which appeared on the web, Health and Human Services planning to publish the final rule on May in an official regulatory publication May 6th. Wow. I thought this was a newer, more recent article than that. The rule is set to take effect 60 days after the official publication date. Gee, what does this rule mean for everybody? Well, Medicare supplement and non-discrimination. Congress created a framework for the Medigap market in 1990. Private insurers write the policies. That's private insurance companies, not government entities. They write the policies based on standardized templates included in federal statutes. State insurance regulators oversee the insurers. That's the important thing. Don't let the feds continue to run the show 100%. The insurers must sell policies on a guaranteed issue basis during the 6-month open enrollment period after a consumer first becomes eligible for Medicare. But in many states, issuers can consider age and health status when selling policies to consumers who do not qualify for an open enrollment period or a special enrollment period. Yes, if the people that are buying the product miss their guaranteed issue periods, which are not kept a secret from anybody, then the insurance companies are able to use underwriting to determine what the charge is going to be, whether or not they're going to accept them in most states. And let's see, the government officials note in the introduction to the new regulations that Medicare supplement insurance companies use medical underwriting. There's nothing evil about medical underwriting except in the world of Obamacare. So here's what happens with sex and gender. In the original draft of the new final rule, which was posted in 2022 and received about 74,000 comments, the government proposed replacing references in the regulations to discrimination based on sex. They're going to take that out, and here's what they're going to put in. They're going to ban discrimination based on sex, including, here's the new part, including sexual orientation and gender identity. In the final rule, they're replacing sex with the phrase sex, including discrimination on the basis of sex characteristics, including intersex traits, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex stereotypes. So isn't that fantastic? Federal regulators already require many communications related to healthcare to come with notices explaining that help is available in languages other than English and in formats designed for people with disabilities. Why do they have to do it? Why can't the insurance companies, who are highly motivated to sell additional product, voluntarily provide that assistance to people who speak foreign languages? Why does the federal government have to take a big stick and whack everybody on the head and cost them additional money? I have a document from one of my insurance companies that shows a bunch of the languages that they are supposed to be ready to provide. And just reading one page full of them, you got English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Tagalog, which I think is the Philippines, Russian, French Creole, regular French, Portuguese, Polish, Japanese, Italian, and German. And that's just one page. I think there are a couple of pages listing languages that the insurance companies that you pay your premium are supposed to help people with. And frankly, I will tell you that a foreigner in this country that has gravitated to the United States, and probably, like, let's say a Polish person who we laughingly refer to as Polacks in Chicago because there are so many of them, they have their own interpreters. They don't have to cost a company to follow a federal statute and provide an interpreter because they have their own neighborhoods full of interpreters. And I've seen this with other types of nationalities. There's no reason for the federal government to get involved in this at all. And defining sex, discrimination against people because of their sexual orientation, that never occurs anyway. So there's no reason for the feds to have any of this balderall. Let's see. Coordinators. The new non-discrimination regulations also require any health insurance agency, that would be me, only a larger health insurance agency with more people in it, because they're saying any firm with 15 or more workers, like we're in Russia, to name a non-discrimination coordinator within 120 days after the rule takes effect. The coordinator, and I think Randy's going to need this, but between Randy and me, I think we've got almost 15 people. We're going to fall prey to this. The coordinator would have to understand the non-discrimination rules well enough to receive, investigate, and process discrimination allegations. The government officials are estimating that a typical coordinator, after all this baloney, will spend 10 hours per year investigating complaints and storing complaint records. Now, who pays them? The owner of the business. The owner of the business has already taken enough risks to start a business and to try to make it successful, to serve their clients in a way that the clients will keep coming back for more. And here is the government saying, oh, you've got to have another employee doing a job that we're not going to pay you for, but we're going to penalize the heck out of you if you're not providing this service. The non-discrimination coordinator. A coordinator can be somebody already on the firm's staff, but must be in a position to administer non-discrimination requirements impartially. Well, how does one determine whether that person is in a position to do that impartially or not? The worker count for determining whether a firm must name a coordinator will include part-time employees and independent contractors. Now, in my family business, we certainly had more than 15 people, but we had maybe 500 independent contractors that had done business with us at one time or another and that were receiving compensation, sometimes very small amounts. An independent contractor is not related to your company. Why should they be counted as a person who works for your firm? This is incredible. This is overreach, and it makes me disgusted. Let's see. We intend for this clarification to reduce concerns that the 15 employee threshold may lead to questionable employment practices. What kind of questionable employment practices would they be concerned about? Coordinator contact information. An affected entity, that could be a small insurance agency down the street from your home. An affected entity must post a telephone number, an email address, and a mailing address for the coordinator on its website, even if that could lead to the coordinator being harassed by workers who oppose the non-discrimination requirements. So let's pick somebody in your company to be the coordinator, put their contact information up, and expose them to harassment from people who realize how stupid this is. Absent this information, individuals who need to reach the coordinator will have no knowledge of how to do so, officials say. If a covered entity's staff is harassing the coordinator because of the coordinator's job responsibilities, the covered entity should take appropriate measures to address the harassment. In some cases, officials say coordinators who are harassed might be able to file their own discrimination charges with the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. If staff, including a covered entity's coordinator, are being threatened by other covered entity staff or by individuals external to the covered entity, we strongly encourage reporting these threats to the FBI. And we all know how concerned the FBI is about fairness and non-discrimination. So I just thought you might want to see our government at work. It's just incredibly stupid. Why don't we take a break here, Randy, and contemplate what we've just learned about the government? Randy's nodding his head in abject disgust. And be quiet now and hope that we have some commercials that play automatically. All right, we're back. I hope you got to hear some cool commercials that were entertaining because I have no idea what they played. I know that some of those things are for entities that we don't really subscribe to, but you know, what the heck? If they're going to put money in our pockets, we're just cretin enough to accept that money and to play their wacky messages. And we expect you to be mature enough to ignore anything that you don't like that's presented in this podcast. So what do we have now? In another revelation that shows once again that I predicted and I observed and I knew what was happening. When you hear that Medicare Advantage plans are popular and they're growing in popularity and that people are choosing Medicare Advantage plans in greater numbers because they're so wonderful, I said that's a bunch of hooey. And the reason for that is because the Medicare Advantage plans are being offered in lieu of retirement plans in many areas. Large companies and large political organizations like states and cities, they are being substituted for the insurance, the health insurance, the retiree health insurance that these companies and these political entities used to purchase on behalf of their retired employees. And it's not always working out well for the retirees. But this article says in 2024, a majority of states offer Medicare Advantage plans to their state retirees. 12 of the states offer Medicare Advantage exclusively. They don't offer any other choice like Medicare supplement plans for their retirees. So this is why so many more people are being shoveled into Medicare Advantage plans. The numbers are growing, and right now Medicare Advantage covers about half of the people in the United States. Let me read some of this article. The share of large employers offering health benefits to retirees has been declining over time because it's hugely expensive. 21% of the large employers in the United States offer health benefits to their retirees. Substantially higher offer rates among public employers, such as state and municipal governments, than among private employers, because private employers have to show a profit. Government employment, no profit needed there. We'll just burn all the money we get. If we don't have enough, we'll increase the taxes and collect more. In 2024, nearly all states and the District of Columbia provide some health benefits to their Medicare age retirees. Until fairly recently, employer-sponsored health benefits for Medicare age retirees were typically designed to supplement, wrap around, or coordinate with traditional Medicare. These plans often cover some or all of Medicare's coinsurance and deductibles, and sometimes cover other benefits not covered by Medicare, such as dental and vision. Over the past few years, many states have shifted their approach and are now fulfilling their retiree health obligations by offering coverage through Medicare Advantage plans, mirroring a similar trend observed among large employers who have been shifting their retiree coverage to Medicare Advantage plans. Here's what happens. You've got a bunch of retirees. You've promised to offer them health insurance when they retire. Whether you're going to pay for all of it as the employer or only part of it, you used to have to purchase health insurance on the open market to provide benefits for your retired employees. What they've discovered is that if you force them to take Medicare Advantage plans, the federal government pays for the insurance. Your tax dollars pay for the insurance because the federal government pays a Medicare Advantage insurance company $1,000, maybe $1,100 a month for each enrollee that they have. And if you're a big company and you've got an obligation to provide health insurance for your retired employees, and you can figure out a way to make the federal government do it instead, then by golly, you look like a hero at the annual meeting of the company. So under this approach, states typically contract with Medicare Advantage private insurers to provide all Medicare covered benefits as well as extra benefits for their Medicare eligible employees and often the spouses. The federal government provides a payment per retiree to cover all Medicare benefits, along with a package of extra benefits for retirees in the group. The extra benefits may also be subsidized by the employer or by employee premiums. While some states offer their Medicare age retirees a choice between Medicare Advantage and a plan that supplements traditional Medicare, others exclusively offer Medicare Advantage. This shift to Medicare Advantage may help states reduce their retiree health liability and simplify administration, but presents trade-offs for beneficiaries, meaning the retirees, particularly those who don't want to have a Medicare Advantage plan. If they prefer coverage under traditional Medicare, then they've got a big problem. So the article goes on to list all the states that offer retiree health insurance, which is just about every single one of them. Only 2 states, Idaho and Nebraska, offer no retiree health benefits to state retirees age 65 and older. Let's see, in 12 states, Medicare Advantage is the only option for retiree health coverage for Medicare age retirees. In 22 states and District of Columbia, they're offered both Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplement plans. And in some other states, they're offered Medicare supplement plans exclusively. So that would be good. At least you're getting a better quality of coverage. For states with employers and unions that offer retiree health benefits, this shift towards Medicare Advantage may be an effective strategy to maintain benefits while reducing spending on retiree health costs. For example, in 2022, Connecticut estimated that the state would save $400 million over 3 years by switching the retirees to a Medicare Advantage administrator, which would also reduce the state's unfunded liability by about $7.5 billion. Just shift all that over to the government so the taxpayers can eat that cost. Similarly, New York City, 2023, they estimated it would save $600 million annually by switching its city retirees to Medicare Advantage. Shifting retiree benefits to Medicare Advantage from other coverage arrangements may present trade-offs for the retirees. Medicare Advantage may offer lower premiums and more comprehensive benefits, maybe. On the other hand, Medicare Advantage plans may have a more limited network of hospitals, physicians, and other providers, which could require retirees to pay more out of pocket or pay the entire cost of their care if they go out of network. Some states with Medicare Advantage contracts stipulate the retirees will not be required to pay more for out-of-network care. However, retirees in these states may need to cover the full cost of their out-of-network care up front if the provider does not take their Medicare Advantage plan. And then they submit a claim for reimbursement to cover their costs. So there's more paperwork and rigmarole for employees or retirees to have to go through. These limitations are in part why public sector retirees in both Delaware and New York City sued to stop being moved into a Medicare Advantage plan. They did not want to be forced to take a Medicare Advantage plan. In New York City, a Manhattan Supreme Court judge prohibited the implementation of this plan, though it's still possible that the mayoral administration may try to appeal the ruling. In Delaware, the Supreme Court recently overruled the lower court's decision, stating that it incorrectly halted the state's move to a Medicare Advantage plan. So it's going to be hashed out in the courts, ladies and gentlemen. This is an unfortunate situation, but when the federal government allows these plans, which are raping and pillaging the Treasury, to be signed on to by large employers who can shift all of their obligations onto the federal government, I see nothing but fiscal disaster in the future. I highlighted another section here for Medicare. The move to Medicare Advantage raises questions about whether states are shifting liabilities to the Medicare program. On average, Medicare pays more for Medicare Advantage plans than for enrollees in traditional Medicare. In 2024, MedPAC, that's a Medicare, I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's a part of the government that determines costs. MedPAC estimates that the Medicare program will spend 22% more per Medicare Advantage enrollee, total of $83 billion, than for similar beneficiaries in traditional Medicare. So once again, we have the government opening the door, and basically these people, you can't blame them for taking advantage. When the barn door is open and the horses are running out of the barn and taking off down the road, it's not the fault of the horses. It's the fault of the person who left the barn door open. In this case, the evil people who allow an insurance plan to provide Medicare coverage in an inferior way that the federal government completely pays for 100%, as opposed to the standard arrangement that I propose, which is a Medicare benefit with a Medicare supplement that is privately purchased by the insured person, and they have their choice of many different options in that regard. And that's a partnership between the government and the insured, the retiree, the 65-plus-year-old. That is a much more palatable arrangement as far as I'm concerned. And I have a feeling that we are sneaking up on closing time. Randy, am I correct about that?
Yes, we have snuck up on closing time. But, while you were discussing this really troublesome direction that the national government is trying to push the country, one thought, and this is certainly not my thought or only my thought, nor did I invent the thought, but one that kept popping into my head: I'm from the government and I'm here to help. The biggest lie ever told.
Yes, exposed by Ronald Reagan.
Yes, yes. What was the other fellow? A president, not just a fellow, but some president said, if you find a politician that's rich, you just found a crook.
Yeah, probably Truman, huh?
Something to that effect. I'm sure I didn't quote him accurately, but that was the concept.
I'm sure Truman was about the last, except for Trump. Truman was the last president in a long line of presidents that did not become wealthier by virtue of holding the office.
No, he did not at all. Well, you know something? The 75-cent clock is over, and we need to move on. But as I always say, before I do, there's a few things that we need to take care of before we close the doors for today. Grab your pencil. If you want to reach out to Doug, you can do so at an email address of dbj@mlmmailbag.com. Don't forget, Doug is licensed nationwide to help you with your Medicare supplement planning. Check us out at the website, medicareforthelazyman.com. Got a lot of cool stuff going on there. We would appreciate it in your wanderings through the internet if you could drop a couple reviews for us. We would love that. And the numbers are all important in our business. Number 4, last but certainly not least, thank you for joining us. You could have been a number of different places doing a number of different things, but you weren't. You were with us, which is exactly where we like to have you, listening to Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. And if you weren't checking your watch, you have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. No more. Right now in the summer, he's camped out up in Illinois, waiting for the cicadas to arrive. And he's hearing that, they're marching down the roads about 20 miles away, right?
Western Springs, Illinois is what I heard.
Well, I don't know where that is, but I hope it stays away from you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, Randy. If it does, we will have achieved a significant victory. But I want to say thank you to you and to all of the listeners. We always enjoy having you with us, and we're hoping that you will join us again for our next episode. Bye-bye.